When I was 6, I found out I was Puerto Rican. That's the opening line to one of my more popular jokes. It's also true. People often ask me, how did you find out you were Puerto Rican? Like you didn't know? As if they had the perfect understanding of race, ethnicity, and identity when they were toddlers. I grew up in a small rural town in central Illinois called Palmer. Crazy enough, Palmer's so small, it's not even officially a town. It's a township, which I guess means it's so tiny you could ship it off by like FedEx or something. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know the town is small when the area code is more than twice the size of the population. And our area code was 217. Anyways, as you would expect, there wasn't a lot of diversity out there. My home was the most diverse place within like a 60-minute drive. You see, outside, it was nothing but white people and corn. But inside, I had a redneck mother and a father who looked like Lionel Richie. Now, to me, that was just dad. I thought he was darker than me because he worked outside. I also just assumed everybody brushed their hair with wave brushes and ate rice and beans every single day. Yeah, I was naive, but also I was a kid, and that was the life that I knew. Now, I remember when I heard the words Puerto Rican for the very first time. I was probably younger than 6, but the memory's pretty vivid. As a kid, I would always eat what I called a bread sandwich, which was just 2 slices of bread put together with nothing in between. My parents, they would often buy bread from the bread discount store, which is kind of like the Goodwill for baked goods. The only problem was everything had like a 3-day expiration date, so you had to get to work because we couldn't afford to let that go to waste. One day I was sitting on the front porch with my mother, and our neighbor came by, and she saw me, and she goes, "That boy sure loves bread. He's American." And like a cuckoo clock, my dad popped out the front door and he goes, "He's Puerto Rican." And then he disappeared back inside. And there it was, my first taste of Puerto Rican pride. Now, I know that Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. So does my father. But if you know anything about the history of that island, you also understand why it could be a little bit divisive. Also, I found out a couple years later that that lady's son once showed up in our front yard with a shotgun and was threatening to shoot my father. So pretty much my dad was like, "You guys already picked sides. He's on my team." But that day my dad gave me a gift. I was a young, impressionable kid, and what he gave me was an identity. I was Puerto Rican. My dad would always speak Spanglish at the house. Even to this day, he calls me mijo, which means my son in Spanish. But I didn't even know at the time that he was putting 2 different languages together. Those were just words that I understood. As I got older, he started to teach me about racism and prejudice, things that I may encounter. It started with him just telling stories about his workplace. When I began going to school, I started to notice these things. You see, people would often call me Mexican. Now, some of that we could chalk up to just ignorance. Maybe those people didn't really know a lot about Latinos and Mexicans were the only ones they knew, so they were just taking a shot in the dark, you know? But there were definitely times when people were calling me Mexican, trying to be demeaning to me, trying to hurt me. Honestly, it never did. Even as a kid, I knew you should respect everybody's culture and love everybody. That was also another lesson my dad taught me. Plus, Mexican food was my favorite at the time. As I got a little bit older, my dad tried to teach me more about Puerto Rican culture. He wanted to show me other Puerto Ricans that I could look up to, but at the time, there weren't a lot of Puerto Ricans on the television. You don't really get Telemundo out in the sticks of Illinois. So what he would do is he would just find people who had tans that he thought was cool and be like, "You see him? He's Puerto Rican." He was looking for somebody for me to admire, to look up to, and honestly, if he wanted that, all he had to do was look in the mirror. Thanks, Pops.
When I was 6, I found out I was Puerto Rican. Yeah, I had no idea what I was. I just knew I looked Italian. My dad had an afro, and everybody kept calling us Mexican for some reason. And we've been in this too deep, so let's not get weird about race. It's tough to tell Latinos apart. That's why we all wear flags all the time. If you see a group of Latinos, it looks like you're currently in the middle of the World Cup. It's like, yo, we got Puerto Ricans, we got Cubans. I have issues. I went to the mall last week. I got confused by a Middle Eastern dude with a nice haircut. I tried to speak Spanish to him. He's like, "No, habibi." I'm like, "You're wearing a Colombian flag." He's like, "I shop at Ross. I dress for less." I'm like, you dress like you're on a soccer team, brother. What's going on? You're a Latino incognito right now. That's what you are. You guys like Ross? Anybody here go to Ross? Yeah, Ross is cool. Ross is where you want to go if you want to shop and do an escape room at the same time. And growing up, when I grew up in the 90s too, we didn't have a lot of Latinos, or in general, we didn't have a lot of Puerto Ricans on television. I didn't have a lot of role models back in the day. Like nowadays, they can sing Hamilton and rap and be presidents and do the Super Bowl. Back then, we had nobody. Like my dad used to just tell me people were Puerto Rican. Anybody with a tan, my dad said that's a Puerto Rican. I thought The Rock was Puerto Rican. Turns out he's Samoan. I'm like, where the heck is Samoa at? I thought that was a Girl Scout cookie. Guys, he was my hero because he was Puerto Rican to me. He would walk out to the ring and be like, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? I'm like, probably something with rice, right?
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm a stand-up comedian who believes the best comedy comes from real life. So if you want to see more of the true stories behind the material, hit that subscribe button. I hope to see you at a show sometime. Have a great day.